Welcome to another episode of Go Arkansas. I'm your host, Naya Stewart. This month, we are highlighting con artists and criminals and celebrating April Fool's Day. We'll learn about the story of Bonnie and Clyde and how they became famous. We'll also share a two-part episode of the infamous Norman Baker, who became well known for creating a false cure for cancer. Lastly, we'll hear from philosophical farmer Clyde Fenton about growing strawberries. All of this is happening on Go Arkansas. The story of Bonnie and Clyde is mixed with romance and tragedy. A young couple robbing stores and hijacking cars made national news and became famous for their crimes. Here to share this story is Jill Curran from Little Rock, Arkansas.
I'm Jill Curran. I'm an Arkansas history buff. Bonnie and Clyde are one of my areas of research. Bonnie and Clyde are America's most famous outlaw couple. They were a couple of what are sometimes called Depression-era desperados. They were both born and raised in the Dallas, Texas area. Clyde was in jail before he was age 18. He met Bonnie in 1930. He was paroled from Texas prison in 1932, and they immediately went on the run. They ran all over Texas and surrounding states. So they would rob small grocery stores, filling stations, small banks. They even stole guns from national armories. And they committed crimes mostly in Texas, but also in surrounding states. Clyde definitely knew the back roads of Arkansas very well. They would travel back and forth to Texas to see their families. So they definitely committed a number of crimes in Arkansas. Sometimes it seems like everybody wanted their little grocery store or their kidnapping to be committed by Bonnie and Clyde. They were locally famous, regionally famous also, until about 1933, when they had to shoot their way out of an apartment building in Joplin, Missouri, and they left so fast that they left behind some poetry that Bonnie wrote and also some rolls of undeveloped film. So if you search Bonnie and Clyde photos online, you'll find some pretty famous pictures of Bonnie with a cigar in her mouth and her foot up on the bumper of a car and them horsing around with guns. Those date to the 1933 Joplin shootout when they left the film behind. That catapulted them into national notoriety. They made the front pages of newspapers after that. So the law is getting closer and closer to them. They're pretty much on the run the last year of their crime spree. So in June of 1933, Clyde crashed their car near Wellington, Texas. He ran off into a ravine and everybody was okay except Bonnie. Her right leg was very badly burned. So they managed to escape from Texas and make their way north to Fort Smith, Arkansas. And they holed up in a tourist court, which is an early form of motel, much like this. Clyde preferred to steal Ford V8s because they were the fastest cars on the road. They were often driving a faster car than the police officers who were chasing them. They certainly had more and better guns than the officers who were chasing them, and they hid out in places like this. So what Clyde would do would be to back up his stolen Ford V8 into a garage like this, close the door, then they could unload guns and people and whatever they needed to into their motel room next door in privacy. And if they needed to leave quickly and shoot their way out, raising the garage door, they could do that, and they sometimes did. So in June of 1933, they're holed up in a tourist court, much like this one, in Fort Smith. Bonnie is very badly hurt. Clyde mostly stayed with her because she was so hurt. So it fell to two other members of the Barrow gang to buy food and medicine for Bonnie, mostly in Van Buren. And then two of them also, when they ran out of money after about a week, headed north to Fayetteville and cased a few grocery stores there. Traveling north on that same highway stretch of 71 were two officers of the law, Alma Marshal Henry Humphrey and County Deputy Red Salyers. Saw the license plate, realized these are the guys who robbed a grocery store in Fayetteville because the Fayetteville police officers had called all the surrounding towns to warn them. And they get out to approach the car where they are immediately hit with gunfire. Marshal Humphrey unfortunately was shot in the chest with buckshot and died 3 days later. He's one of 12 people that the Barrow Gang killed, mostly officers of the law. They're on the run for another 11 months. When in May 23rd, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde, traveling in a stolen Ford V8, were ambushed outside of Gibbsland, Louisiana, by officers who had set a trap for them. And those officers shot them and their car full of 167 bullets, and they obviously died at the scene. Bonnie was 23 at the time. Clyde was 25 years old. I asked myself why there's such an interest in them many times, because I at first was kind of caught up in the romanticization of them, and it's a young couple, they're in love, they're on the run from the law. The 1967 movie starring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway certainly contributed to their mystique. So there's a romance to them. I think the photos from Joplin really helped cement their popularity, and seeing them playing around with guns and obviously in love with each other, it certainly contributes to that, and that made them national news. I just think we like underdogs, and we like people on the run, and we like young couples in love who are just doing whatever the heck they want, shooting their way out, and when they run out of money, robbing a grocery store. And there's a romance to that and a freedom that we mythologize.